We're live in the studio in Worthing. If you're over on Facebook, you should be here. So hopefully you can get some time to see what's going on. This will be recorded and I will drop a link onto the Bob Ross for Beginners Facebook page and any other Bob Ross related pages, so you get a chance to see. But yeah, welcome to the studio tonight. You're looking at me through the brand new webcam. No more am I trying to fool my mobile phone into believing it's a webcam. That was a lot of problems, and so we're good to go tonight. I've got a little canvas set up, and you can see that I'm surrounded by all the usual paraphernalia of paintings done previously, paintings on the side here waiting to be done. So yeah, there's a hive of activity and paints behind me. Now, if you can see what I'm saying here, you can always leave a little comment for me. That would be really nice to see what's going on. So I'm going to hopefully say something here on the sidebar. Please say hi. So if you're joining in and you're watching, just leave a little comment. Let me know you can hear me okay. I've got a new microphone and a new camera. So hi, Sasha. Hi, good to see you. So, right, I am live. Now, some of the things that I've been reading recently, storing paint and such like seems to be a bit of an issue right now. The consistency of the paint that's arriving, there seems to be very oily paint arriving. A lot of the Bob Ross brands are coming through much too oily, and people are wondering why when they squeeze the tube, like a load of oil just rushes out. And my top tip really is the way you store your paint. Now, if you go around most supermarkets, this is something called Sterident. It's like for false teeth. But have a look around your local supermarket, and you'll often see these little polystyrene trays knocking around that people actually use. Well, actually, it's what the manufacturers ship products in, and these get discarded. They're just polystyrene, but these things are absolutely ace. I store my tubes of paint, and I store them like that, okay? Because what happens a lot of the time is that the paint, when it's manufactured, there's a great deal of oil mixed in with it. And as the tube lays, if it's left lying on its side, all that happens is that the oil settles to the sort of the highest spot, which is right by the nozzle here. And of course, the first time you got to use it, you dump all the oil. So my tip is to stand them on their heads like that, okay? Store them upright, and that way all the oil will settle at least to the back of the tube. And then before you start using it, give it a thorough massage, and you'll hear it. You'll hear the sort of oil slopping around inside the top of the tube. So give it a little massage, give it a little squeeze, and that way you'll get the paint mixed back in properly. You won't end up dumping all the oil, because what will happen is about halfway down the tube, what oil is left will run out, and then you're going to end up with a tube of paint which is like a rock, and you can't get anything out of it. So there's my top tip. Get these things from supermarkets. They're given to you. They don't want them. They're going to bin them. And you can get them this size. And I've got ones that are bigger. I think they came from something like a puree tube. But look around your local supermarkets. Pick up a few of these things. If they're a little bit on the flimsy side, I wrap them with a bit of duct tape. That just beefs them up a little bit. But there we go, folks. My tip for the evening. Okay. Now, my painting tonight, I've done something kind of festive for you. Excuse me. My other half, she's a lovely watercolorist. She's been doing some watercolors recently and following another course with somebody else, and she did a really stonking painting. I thought, wow, that's so cool. I'm going to adapt it, and I'm going to do it for you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the canvas around. Sorry, canvas? No. I'm going to spin the camera around. That's better. And I'm going to face it onto the table next to me. Normally I paint over these. See, I stand up and I paint. But now I'm going to spin the camera around. So, and as you can see, I've got myself all taped up and all masked up with a little piece of sticky back plastic, which is in true Blue Peter fashion is anything but sticky. I stuck this stuff on here earlier on today, and as you can see, I'm having a bit of a mare. It doesn't want to stick. It lifts off. So if this all comes to pieces halfway through my painting, I don't want to hear any laughing. Okay, I can hear you out there sniggering in the back row. So some people are working hard here. The chances are the person who'll be laughing hardest will be me. So don't worry too much. So yeah, I basically drew a little circle here, and I put down a layer of masking tape, and then I cut some sticky back plastic or non-sticky back plastic and stuck it over the top. And then before it all had a chance to lift off, I just went around here with some black gesso and blacked the centre of it out. And I've got some colour on top of here as well. I'm going to see if I can figure out where that light is shining from on that side there. I think that's my side lamp. Let me move that back a little bit. Oh, I'm going to turn the light out. Hold on. The light. How's that? That looks pretty good. You can have too much lighting sometimes when you're actually filming, so I just turned it down a little bit. Okay, so here's my cam setup, and I've put some colors up here in the sky. You can probably see that there's a little bit of blue there. There's some phthalo green down in here, and there's some crimson over there. And I just put some mountain color down there as well. Excuse me. I need some of this. I need my tea. Hang on. My nerves get a little frayed when I'm trying to get this rig to work, and whatever I seem to do, bless them. Facebook, I just cannot make Facebook work. It just, as soon as I go on Facebook Live, it just knackers the signal for everybody. It literally just stops the whole broadcast happening. So I'm going to just in future, I'm just going to broadcast on YouTube and then record it for the guys on Facebook. So that's the way to go. So this has got color on it. I put liquid clear on here first. Here's my pot of liquid clear. This is the one I keep in the freezer, just so you see that's nice and liquid. But I stick this in the freezer, and what happens is it just goes like a lump of wax, and it goes nice and firm, and it's not affected by being frozen. As soon as you let it come back to temperature, it goes back to being liquid, but it doesn't dry out. That liquid clear has been in the freezer now since probably October. Last October, not this October, last October. So it's been sitting in there for well over a year now. No ill effects at all, and it doesn't dry out, and it doesn't make a skin. As long as it's in one of these little sealed airtight containers and you give the lid a nice squeeze down, you're golden. You're absolutely fine. Good. Okay, so let's get going with some painting. I'm going to do a nice little Aurora Borealis painting. I got a choice of different brushes to use. These are my small brushes. These are, I think they're number 3. Yeah, Bob Ross number 3 fans. So these are little diddy fellas. There you go. So probably back to front. Yeah, it's back to front. Well, I can't hold it upside down. You won't see it. But yeah, it's a number 3 Bob Ross fan blender. And my palette, well, this is what I've got on my palette here tonight. I've got titanium white, mountain mix, phthalo green, crimson, phthalo blue, and I've got some brown, Van Dyke brown, and some sienna. So first things first, I'm going to get into this. I'm going to put some white on here. So I'm going to select that brush. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit tighter, probably a little bit older if the truth be told. I'm going to just put on a small amount of white onto my brush. Okay. Now, whenever I've painted things like these auroras, the one thing you've got to absolutely do is to make sure you've got enough color on there first, and to test it with your fingers. So let's put my brush down. If I actually take my finger and I actually stick it in the paint, you can see that I've got true color. Okay, there's lavender there. That's blue and crimson. So you can see I've got good color. If all you've got is something that looks a little bit kind of washed out or bleached out like that, in other words, there's more skin than there is paint, then this won't produce a very nice painting for you. All it will do is it will just make you a very grey painting, and it won't have that lovely impact of color that you're looking for. So there's another tip for you. Don't be stingy with the paint. Put on a good amount of color and test it. Test everywhere on the canvas that you're using this paint to make sure you've got it nice and bright. Okay, I'm going to push that light around a little bit further there. Okay, so I want my aurora borealis to loop round and kind of pick a spot where you think it starts from, and I'm going to just touch. Now, what I'm doing is I'm just stippling in some paint here. Give yourself room for a nice curve. Okay, and I'm going to stop right at that spot, and I'm going to start pulling up this color. And there's a reason for that, and it's because if you put the whole aurora on, all of it in one go, you'll find as you drag your brush up from one, you'll bump into something else and you'll smear it. So if you want to be a little bit more controlled about this, that's my tip for you. So I've got a nice clean dry 1-inch brush, and you going to make sure you got enough paint on there. And I just want to start, and I'm going to just lay my brush against it, and I'm going to use some firm pressure. I'm really going to lean on this. Okay. So already you see I've got the start of my little aurora bending round. And it's very tempting to want to go back over this 2 or 3 times. Now, you see I've got 2 little starts. Now I can carry on with the second loop. Okay, so now I've pulled up that little curtain of color, I can add my second little band of color behind it so that it looks a little bit more 3-dimensional. Okay, it comes with a tight little loop here, and I can go back on there and push and give it a nice little pull. And give it you see I bend the brush around and I give it a little flick. So I got this nice looping action. So my 3D effect looks good. I'm just going to load a little more paint on my brush. It's the other thing, don't be too mean with the amount of paint you put on your brush here. You've got kind of one shot at doing this, and if you kind of get a little bit nervous about it all, then you're not going to do too good a job with it. Now, I don't know if I've got room for a third one on here. I may do. Let's see how we get on. I'm kind of limited on my space here. Just dabbing out the paint. Okay, press and pull. Don't get nervous and stop halfway through that pull. You've got to be committed to doing it. And press and pull. Okay. Do you reckon I got room for a third little one on there? What do you reckon? Yeah, I reckon so. Looks like it's just you and me, Sasha. Okay, so I'm going to do another little loop here. And this time I'm going to come over here. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a tighter turn here. Remember, I stopped there. And I'm going to pull up first. And then I can put on the remainder of my aurora. So again, I kind of created the curtain at the back first. And then I let this curtain or this part of the aurora cross in front of it. Okay, so it gives that lovely 3D look to it. So rather than just putting it all on and hoping for the best, this is, I think, is a picture much nicer. Now I don't want to go wiping out these ones above here, so I'm going to do a short flick. Okay, so press and a little flick. Just knocking off the excess paint on my brush. And if you've got any of these little white speckles on here, these little, they're called sprites, I think. And just turn my brush on its side. You can just pull down, collect any little dots that might have gotten away from you. Okay, that looks pretty cool. Now, what happens if places like here you didn't quite get enough, so you want a little bit more of the aurora? Well, it's okay to go back in. Now, another little tip for you: if you've picked up a lot of crimson on your brush, this is quite crimson over here. It looks quite green on the screen, but it's actually more crimson, more lavender. If you pick up a lot of crimson and you put it near the green color, you're going to get brown. Okay. We used to have a nickname for a color. It was called Christmas brown. Think of hollies and berries. So green leaves and red berries. So green and brown, sorry, green and red make this beautiful, warm, rich brown color. But you don't want to see a brown color on your sky. So take care if you've got a lot of crimson on your fan brush here. Just make sure you get rid of that crimson first, especially if you're going to play again on this green color. Now I'm just going to go back in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just bend my brush around that corner. So I'm just going to bend it, kind of push the corner in and bend it round, and give myself a little bit more light color there to play with. And again, give a nice little press and a pull. Okay, so that's just brightened up that little area there without damaging anything. It's very tempting to want to go back over this 3 or 4 times and play with it, but try and resist if you can. Okay. Now, the next little part of my painting in here is I just want to drop in a fir tree or two. Okay, some nice little fir trees. And I'm going to be using my same dirty brush. I'm going to go back into some of this mountain mix color. I want a blue-gray color here. Nothing too vibrant. And there's nothing wrong with having a little test first. That looks pretty good. It may be a little on the bright side, so I'm going to just tone that down. So I'm just going to pull down some mountain mix, and I'm going to just have another little go. So that's that little bit duller there. That's not quite as strong. So, and I tend to vary my colors quite a bit as I'm painting. I don't stick to just one shade of color. I tend to just play, and sometimes a little darker, sometimes a little lighter. So what I really want is here is some nice little row of fir trees in here to kind of create a little bit of a backdrop. And I like to kind of map these out before I get going. So maybe I'll put in 2 or 3 little starters there. I don't really want to kill my little aurora, but it's okay to paint through some of it. Okay, don't be too precious. So what I'm doing is I'm just dropping on a series of centers here. So I just really want to map out where I think my trees are going to go. That's my dehumidifier kicking in. Hi Pam, good to see you, darling. Yeah. Pam was enjoying a delicate meal, or she put it, scoffing in my face. Well, you hear Pam. That's all. That's what matters. Okay. Of course, you missed the most exciting part, and I can't repeat that. So, but it's all being recorded, so that's fine. So all I've done here is I've just dropped in a series of kind of ideas where I want my trees to be, and I'm looking for lots of variation on the sizes of these trees. It's kind of force of habit, really. We're inclined to paint things a little bit sort of one big, one small, one big, one small, one big, one small, or to put them all the same size, or to make the gaps very even. we're kind of almost bred to do it. We're kind of, everything we do in life is regimented, square houses, round wheels, and we kind of tend to fall into the trap of painting that way. And then you look at Mother Nature, and Mother Nature most of the time is fairly irregular. So I like to try and make sure that I change the look of this a little bit. So, and I'm literally just going to drop in the suggestion of a few little fir trees here. These are background fir trees. So these ones are quite far away, but I do want to convert some of these into something a little bit closer. So I'm going to go back through my paint again. Just going to load my brush well, and particularly the corners. Okay, got to load those corners really well. And I'm going to do little uppy trees. In other words, they're going to have their little branches bending in an upward pattern. This is the shape I'm going to do. I'm going to press with the corner of my brush, and I'm going to make little upward presses with it. So it creates these little kind of smiles, okay? So I'm going to pick one of these bigger ones here on the side, and I'm going to do some little upward presses. So I'm going to get on the corner of my brush, kind of angle the brush and tip the brush away from you, and just do little upward presses with it. You want to make sure you do a nice sort of solid center to your tree. Now that looks a little bit too light for me. I'd like to see a little bit more shadow through the middle of my tree. So I'm going to go back in with a little bit of dark. Just darken these up a little bit. Pulling in some more of that mountain color. Now then, let's give him a go. Yeah, that's it. Got a nice tree. I think there's one in here as well, right in front of that aurora. Pushed him back, and that one there. I want quite a nice little row of trees back there. I want it really to kind of push the aurora back a little bit. And this one here looks like a good candidate. I keep them nice and random. I try not to make them look too regular. Put a little snow on some of these trees. If these trees all look like they're kind of blending into each other, I can always add a little suggestion of snow on one or two of them. That pops them forwards. When you're painting, you're going to run into little hiccups and things. You think to yourself, what do I do? And I do this quickly because I've done these mistakes many times before. It's not because I'm superhuman. It's just that I've just made more mistakes than you have. And trust me, I would have made many more mistakes. I mean, throw a little phthalo green into that. Why not? See, this one here, he doesn't really stand out from the ones around him. He looks a little bit kind of lost in there. So I'm going to just go back and just touch him with a little bit of white phthalo green. Yeah, see how that really makes him pop. I can do that one there as well. And quite often I find when I'm painting away and I encounter a problem, I've learned not to jump too quick to fix it, to go crazy with a fan brush or pick up a palette knife and start scraping away at it crazily. What I've learned to do over the years is to sit and just look and to weigh up my options. It's very easy to get kind of a little crazy and to suddenly get into kind of like grab a palette knife and think, right, I'm going to hack this up and I'm going to get rid of this, and this is a mistake. And next thing you know, you kind of got the palette knife in there and you're kind of scraping away, and And then suddenly you realize actually you may have just taken away something which was fantastic. You kind of got the old palette knife in there a bit too quick. So what I would say is when you think something is going a little bit kind of not as you planned it, stop, sit back, have a little think about it, have a cup of tea. The painting policeman isn't going to come out and arrest you, but take your time. It doesn't matter if you take 20 minutes to figure out what you're going to do. Maybe you won't even figure it out that day. You may take a couple of days to work out how you're going to fix something, but give yourself permission. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say is give yourself permission to take your time with things. Okay, it's not a race. I know we kind of beat ourselves up a little too much when we're painting. Sometimes we're kind of expecting perfection every time we pick up a brush, and I know from my own experience that it just isn't realistic, folks. It just isn't. I kind of like some of these raggedy trees I got on here. I think I need to just put in a little bit of snow just to kind of complete the base there. Do I need anything on this corner here? Well, I may do. Okay. And that's the other thing I think is important to remember about your paintings. Give yourself a little breathing space. Try not to finish everything to death. Okay. I think that sometimes we're apt to trying to fix everything and paint everything to death before we have a chance to breathe. And I always say, Doug, just relax. It's no big deal. I'm just going to do a little sound test. Can everybody hear me okay? Just give me a little comment and say if you can hear me. And otherwise, I won't know to adjust the volume control. I don't know if I have to adjust the volume control. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My microphone says it's on. Yep, it's blinking. So hopefully you can hear me okay. Okay. So now I want to get into here and I want to actually start. Let's move that around a little bit. That's better. That looks better, doesn't it? I had a light. I've got a light over here that's so bright and it's really burning my eyes out. Good. Oh, that's lovely, Pam. Grand. So now I've taken the light off. You can see I've got a little bit more different shades of light and dark in here. I've got shadowy trees and I've got light trees and dark trees. And I'm going to just drop in a little bit of a snowy area underneath. And again, I'm going to use that same grubby old brush. It's got lots of paint all over it, but I'm going to just clean it. I want my snow to have some color in it. I don't want it to be so blindingly white. As soon as I try and put on tons of white paint, then I've lost the advantage of having any shadows. So I'm going to be using kind of mucky white, okay, off my palette. And I'm thinking about how the lay of the land goes here. So I'm just going to go in and drag. I probably want it brightest in the center and I want it darkest at the edge. And I'm going to leave a little bit of that dark color up underneath those bushes and trees there. Now this looks pretty bright on my computer screen. I'm looking at the screen. My screen's just over to the side of me over here, and I'm kind of looking at it over my shoulder, so to speak. And it looks really bright, but I can promise you this is actually quite subdued. I'm just going to do some more. But let some of these little dark areas creep in here. This gives your painting atmosphere, okay? You can even try a little kind of angled stroke at the edge here to make it look like snow that kind of blew up under the bushes and trees. Maybe it's a bit of a weenie painting today. Let's do a little kind of curve to it. Yeah, okay. Curve it round. Save some of those little darks. Ooh, what's that? I don't know what that is. Something stuck to my canvas. Maybe it's a tree. You see, so I've got some nice kind of patterns and shapes in here, and it means that I can let my brush run out of paint. And I can think about coming in from the other direction. I can think about laying in a second bank of snow coming in the other direction. Let me just run this out a little bit more. I often describe painting as being a bit like chess, really. You've got to kind of think a couple of moves ahead. So if I'm going to bring in another bank of snow coming this direction, and the snow behind it was really bright, then this bank of snow is going to really struggle. So what I'm doing is I'm deliberately letting this brush run out of puff. I'm letting it run out of paint. I'm preserving some of those little dark areas in there so that when I put a little more paint on my brush. Oh yeah, I'm a black canvas fan, Pam. I must admit, I'm a bit of a sucker for a black canvas. Okay, so I've got a lovely dark area in here. I've got a nice deep shadow, so I can come back in from the other direction here and drop in another bank of snow. Do you fancy a cabin? Before I put that bank of snow, do you fancy a cabin? Should I put a cabin in this somewhere? I think so. Yeah, let's do a cabin. I haven't painted a cabin on live stream before. So yeah, let's paint a cabin. I've got a little palette knife out here. This is my number. Which size is this? Number 5. This is a little floral brush, a floral palette knife. This isn't the full size jobby. So let's paint a little cabin. Okay. Where am I going to put it? I'm going to stick it over here. Okay. He's going to be looking that way. So he's a back to front cabin. Now, not many people realize, but actually you've got the front of a cabin in the angles of your palette knife. Okay. Bob was asked years ago when he was alive, why do you have a palette knife that shape? And he said it's because this gives me the shape of a cabin right off. He said I don't have to worry too much. So you can put it on one side and then flip it over and you've got the other side. He was a very shrewd operator, was Bob. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to scrape out the shape of my cabin. And what I want to do really is I want to create the shape of a broad arrow. Okay. I should have had a piece of paper and a pencil ready. What I want to do is I want to make sure a dinosaur. Okay, a little joke here with Pam and myself. Her brother-in-law, sorry, her brother, I believe, vandalized one of her paintings on Photoshop and put dinosaurs in it, just for fun. So I'm going to use my palette knife, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape out the front of it. And really all that is it's just a big broad arrow. If I put my knife on there and I pull down and I scrape, what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to try and make a nice arrow. Okay. Scrape that down. Okay. Now you may not be able to see that too well, so I'm just going to outline that with a little bit of white or a little bit of light. So what I've done is I created one line there, one line there, a side, and another side. So you see, all I've done is I've just created an arrow. Okay. The important thing to remember is that this is the longest side of the cabin. It's the side that's closest to you. The side at the back there is furthest from you across the front plane of this. So it has to be shorter because it's a little further away. Now, if you goof on this, it's no big problem. You can pick up your fan brush and you can repair. Whoops, not like that, you don't. But if you goof, you can always pick up your fan brush and do a little repair. I think I just had a happy accident there, folks. Let's pick up another fan brush and just swoosh that in. Yeah, there we go. We'll keep it our secret. We won't tell anybody else. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for, is I'm looking for a big, broad arrow. That's the front. Now I'm looking for the side. Now the side, again, it wants to have a slight upward angle to it. Again, so it's getting smaller as it goes from the front to the back. So this cabin is at a slight angle. You want to angle it so that it looks appealing to the eye. So it's going to have a slightly longer side and a slightly shorter side. And your roof line, now this is the $64,000 question that people sometimes get kind of a little bit kind of wrong, is they have a roof line which goes up at the back. I just do the side of this. I'm going to put this in here and sketch that bit in there. So there you go. There's my front and a side. Now what happens is that the roof angle at the back starts to grow, and when you look at it from a little distance, you realize that it looks like the cabin is actually getting bigger the further it goes away from you, which is kind of wrong. Things going away from you tend to get a little smaller. So this is kind of crucial. Make sure you get your roof angle sloping down, okay, and clean that out. Okay. At the very least, try and get it level. So this is going to be the biggest face, and everything is getting smaller. Let me put a little bit of light on the ridge, and a little bit of light on the back on there as well. Okay. For the shakes tonight. So there you go. There's the sketch for my little cabin. And you can see that the proportions look kind of correct to my eye. Bigger at the front, smaller at the back. Okay. And it's a small thing, but I like a little overhang on the corners here. It tells me that the roof actually is bigger than the building it's sitting under. So let's mix up some color here. I've got some Van Dyke brown. And I'm going to just pull some Van Dyke brown out just to underpaint. I'm going to pull it down flat. And I'm going to scoop up. Okay, so you get a little roll of paint on your knife. And what I'm going to do is block in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to block in the front of my cabin. Now remember I started off with my knife kind of flat? Well, isn't that lucky that the front of my cabin is exactly the right width for my palette knife. So when I block in, I don't overshoot too much. That was lucky, wasn't it? Or did I plan it? I might have planned it a little bit. Okay. Press and really push that in. I'm going to press it into the canvas a lot. Instead, I'm not painting on canvas. I'm painting on my DIY paper canvases, my canvas I make from lining paper. I'm going to put in the side of my cabin as well. Again, try and keep that front edge there nice and long. Okay. We'll tidy that little bit up with some snow. So it's got a front and a side on it. Let's mix up a little marble mix. So I've got a little bit of Van Dyke brown, a little bit of sienna, and a little bit of grubby white down the middle. And notice here how I lay my colors out. I separate the two browns with the pale color in the center for a reason. If I put the two browns side by side and then put light to the side of those two, the two browns are going to run and have fun playing together before the light color gets mixed into it. By putting the light color through the center, you can pull the colors into it and across to the other side. So this way you create a nice marble mix. You've got marble mix to the Van Dyke side. marble mix to the sienna side, and a pale mix in the center. So you've got a big variety of colors there. So there's a little top tip. Separate the two dark brown colors, and then that way you don't have them running into each other too quickly. So I've wiped off my knife a little bit. I might just pick up just a small amount. I'm going to just use the small blade of my knife. I'm going to just reach up here and I'm going to just drag gently. Now, I don't often use a small palette knife. I got to confess, I don't really like small palette knives. I like the full-size palette knife. I find I can get on with it a little better. But, well, today's painting is a little on the small side, so there we go. Just looking to create a nice old barn. And if it gets a little too light for you, well, you've got a dark marble mix color to the side there, so you can always pick up a little of the dark color and add that back in. Against that edge there, I want that to be a little bit on the dark side against that snow. And this is another little tip. I like to be able to see the corner of my building. So I want a good variation of the light, and I want a dark side to my building here. So I'm going to make sure my marble mix down here is nice and dark. I want to see a nice transition around the corner of my building. I can't quite see it there. It's not quite right for my eye. So I'm going to pick up a little light marble mix, and I'm going to just run that down the edge of my building. Not quite bright enough. A little bit of light on that. Yeah, there we go. As soon as you lighten that corner up, you're fine. There we go. So I've got a light side and a dark side. And get back into a little bit of the dark color. When you're using a palette knife, always pull your paint out flat. You can't use a palette knife effectively when the paint's in a chunk. So I'm just going to put my knife into that, and I'm going to just touch here and there and there and here. Put a few nice little boards on that. Maybe just a couple down the side. Now you can see the advantage of using the knife and using the knife, the size of the knife, to help me construct the building. My knife fits neatly into the shape of the building. I don't run out of space. I'm not struggling. I give him a little door. Okay, little door. Little Van Dyke brown. Bob would whistle, you go. Okay. A little bit of snow on that top edge, just to kind of outline things. It's pretty good. Okay. Now the roof. $64,000 question is, how did Bob get the roof on so good? Because he could do it in one swipe, couldn't he? He could just go, he'd go with the white and he'd go zoop, and he would do it in one go. And sometimes I get it right, and sometimes I don't. Even with all the years of practice I've had, you don't always hit it. So here's a little tip for you. If you're nervous about putting snow on a roof, outline it first. I cleaned off my knife, put a little snow on the top, on that edge. And you've got a little overhang on that back corner there, which is nice. Put a little snow on the front. I Got a nice even roll of paint. What I'm looking for, I want a nice even roll of paint on my knife. And take your time with it. Really take your time with it. I got a nice big scoop of paint there. Yeah, get that off there. Okay, and get rid of that paint that was in my way. I'm struggling tonight, folks. I make no excuses. It wasn't a hard night on the tiles last night, but I had my shoulder replaced a few weeks ago. So I got a plastic shoulder. Well, it's plastic and titanium, and the nerves in my hand don't quite work properly all the time. They do a little random things occasionally, and sometimes you'll be stirring your tea, and suddenly your brush spoon's going backwards, and you think, so I was just stirring it clockwise a second ago, and you don't know why, and you realize it's because your nerves aren't right connected properly. So my control is a little bit random sometimes, but I'm not going to let that stop me. There we go. That's pretty good. I reckon I got a good snowy roof on my little cabin. Next time I do a cabin, I'll do a big one, and that way you can see a different sort of cabin. So I'm going back to my snow, and I'm going to pull a little snow out from underneath this cabin. Give it a little, grab a little color there. Tidy this up. I like it when the snow kind of kicks up around the base of the cabin. Looks pretty good. A cabin in every painting. I got bad news, Pam. Them seascapes, they don't work. They don't work with cabins. Not so hot with cabins. Not unless it's on a boat, I guess. I kind of like that. It's got a little bit of snow kicked up around it. Yeah, a little bit more. Now the idea is this is really like a nice little focal point. It's competing a little bit with the Aurora, but that's okay. This is in 1/3 of my painting, and this is in another third. So if you divide your painting up, I need another little eye catch for the eye, and I think it's probably going to be a tree or something in here. So I'm going to just let my paint run out on my brush a little bit in here. And maybe I'm going to convert this tree into a tree in the foreground. I wasn't particularly pleased with this tree. It didn't kind of go quite as I wanted it to go. So I had the idea that as my painting progressed, if I could do something about this tree, I would do. And whilst I've been blathering on, I thought I could use that and I could make myself a whole new tree. So let's get some of that dark color here. And let's extend this down and make this tree a foreground tree. Now bring him right through into the front. There we go. And he needs a little bit more dark. Hang on, folks. I need to get some more dark paint. I ran out. Inexcusable. Hang on a second. Sorry, folks, I ran out of blue paint. So let me grab some more of this lovely dark blue paint. I need a nice shadow in here. So bring that through right to the front. Yeah, that's it. See, to get any of these colors to show up, you've got to have a shadow first. So I'm going to put a shadow on there. I've got a nice deep shadow through there. Dry clean my fan brush and put a little snow on there. And I'm going to put a little bit more of that phthalo green color in there. I like that. Hi, Peter. It's good to see you. Oh, gosh, yeah. You painted many a mountain, Peter, over the years. See, I wanted this little tree to really pop. So I put a little bit more of that phthalo green color into my white, so that when I touch it, phthalo green's got a little bit kind of fluorescent, and it really stands out. Now you can't see that color as well on this camera, but I can promise you that's quite a nice, vibrant sort of phthalo green color. It kind of picks up on the aurora, which is kind of a bit of luck, isn't it? As they say, you know, the more you practice, the luckier you get. I don't know what the truth of that is, but apparently it's true. And I've been practicing a little bit. So what I really got to do now is just put in some little bushes at the front, maybe just a few little bushes in here at the front. Again, I'm going to put in the dark color first, stab some of that into there. I got a little bit of snow at the background there, so I can make this show up. I'm going to get back into my aurora color, my vibrant green. I'm just going to stab these in, but don't kill all the lovely dark. Keep that lovely dark color in there. That's really important. That brush has done an awful lot of work. I think it's time to have a slightly cleaner brush. And maybe I'll just have this a little brighter. That looks pretty bright. So I want to bring this through to the foreground. You could add a whole bunch of stuff in the foreground here if you wanted to. You could put in little dead trees and all sorts of things, but I'm just looking at the time here. I've got a couple of minutes left to go. I timed it pretty good. And I always like to use my knife and a little bit of paint on it and just kind of put up some little sticks and twigs and things. I just touch my knife into some of the white paint and just put a few little sticks and twigs through there. It just kind of finishes it off real nice. And I think that's going to be my little cabin painting done for tonight. I don't know if I'm going to get another painting done before Christmas. I'm going to do my best to see if I can get some time to do one more live stream before Christmas. We'll have to wait and see. I'm kind of trying to get lots of other little projects done as well. In case you didn't spot it, on the website now we've just started to do some DVDs, and I'm going to film a bunch of Bob Ross style paintings. These aren't ones that Bob did. These are Bob Ross paintings, well, Bob Ross style paintings. These are my paintings, my original pictures done in the Bob Ross style. So this is something completely new. It uses all the same techniques, but And there's some slightly more English looking ones as well. So what's left to do on my painting? Well, I know I could do a little signature on there. That's not too bad. I can do that. I can use the end of a brush and I can just put my initials into it. And that's sorted out. They're back to front, folks. But you're waiting to see the mask come off, aren't you? You're waiting to see the plastic come off. Should I do that next? Okay. Here we go, folks. And I can tell you this has been, this sticky back plastic does not want to stick. It has been a stinker. So there we go, folks. It should say Merry Christmas, but it's back to front. What the heck happened? I can't tell you what happened here. Let me see if I can turn it the right way around for you. I don't think I can do this. No, it still doesn't work. Is anyone getting seasick here? I am. It says Merry Christmas. Trust me, it does. And of course, what I've done for you is I painted a little snow globe for you. So flick some paint on it, have some fun, put it on the wall at Christmas time and have fun. Paint some lovely paintings. That's my in-laws telling me that it's 9 o'clock. I should get off the video. But no, it's been lovely, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. It's the right way around. It's the right way around in your world, but my computer screen says it's upside down. Sorry, Pam. There we go. Yay, there we go. If it looks good to you, then it looks good to me. But stay safe, folks. If I don't see you before, have a super Christmas, and we'll see you in 2021. A little message coming in. Hello.
From Helen. She says she can see the Merry Christmas. You don't need to touch it.
Thank you, Pam. My in-laws, my in-laws have relayed a message through my lovely other half, Terri, that Merry Christmas is the right way up. It is not in Australia. Anyway, that's it, folks. I'm going to say goodnight to all of you. Stay safe. Be good. And if you can't do either of those, make sure you get a full Sunday lunch. Okay, now, take care, and I'm going to cut right now. Bye, folks.